The liquid in this glass is, chemically speaking, a poison. It makes us dizzy, nauseous, out of control, and full of regret the next morning. And yet, every year, humans drink billions of liters of it. The real question isn't, why do we drink too much? It's this: why do humans love a poison so much? And the answer is older than humanity itself. No scientist ever sat down and invented alcohol. In fact, alcohol existed on Earth, long before our ancestors ever stood upright. To understand why, we have to rewind 10 million years, back to when our ancestors were still apes living in the trees. As the forest changed, some apes began, leaving the treetops to forage on the ground. And down there, ripe fruit fell and started to ferment. Wild yeast eating the sugar and releasing alcohol. The riper the fruit, the stronger the smell of alcohol. And that smell accidentally became a giant signpost. High energy food right here. About 10 million years ago, the common ancestor of humans, chimps, and gorillas picked up a tiny mutation in a gene called ADH4. This mutation let their bodies break down alcohol up to 40 times faster. Think about what that meant. Any ape that could eat fermented fruit without passing out or getting poisoned gained a whole extra source of calories that others wasted. They survived, they reproduced, and they passed down to us something very special: a taste for alcohol. In other words, long before we were even human, our brains were already wired to find the smell of alcohol appealing. We didn't learn to like alcohol. We were born already drawn to it. Our ancestors were only missing one final step: making it on purpose. Fermentation is almost an unavoidable accident. Leave anything sweet, fruit, honey, grain, sitting in water, and the wild yeast floating in the air does the rest. A few days later, you've got a bubbly, slightly intoxicating drink. Our ancestors must have made alcohol by accident, thousands of times before they understood what was happening. And once they did understand, they started doing it on purpose. The archaeological evidence is striking. At Jiahu in China, researchers found traces of a fermented drink made from rice, honey, and fruit, dating back about 9,000 years. And at Rakafet Cave in Israel, there are remains of a beer-like brew, made for a feast as far back as 13,000 years ago. That's before humans even knew how to make bread. And that leads to the most controversial idea in this story. Some researchers argue that it may have been the craving for alcohol that helped push humans to start farming. In other words, we domesticated grain, not only to fill our stomachs, but partly to brew beer. If this idea is right, then one of the biggest turning points in human history, agriculture itself, may have been driven in part by the desire to get a little buzzed. To be clear, this is still a debated hypothesis, not a settled fact. But alcohol was never just about calories or getting drunk. It lowers our guard. Around the fire, a little buzz helps strangers relax, trust each other, bond, and make deals. Alcohol became the lubricant of rituals, festivals, weddings, and business. As tribes grew into villages and then cities, this little poison accidentally helped. Crowds of strangers live and cooperate together. Of course, evolution isn't always generous. It gave us the craving, but not immunity. Alcohol is still a poison. It's addictive, it damages the liver, and the morning after headache is a very clear reminder. In fact, many people's bodies still haven't fully made peace with it. A large number of East Asians carry a gene variant that makes their face flush red when they drink. Proof that this evolution is still happening right inside our bodies. So here's the truth. Humans never really invented alcohol. A fungus did, millions of years before we showed up. Our ape ancestors simply inherited the craving by accident. And then we humans built an entire civilization around it. From rotting fruit on the forest floor to a glass of wine on the dinner table. We've been drinking for 10 million years. We just have nicer glasses now. Cheers!